All right. So, today we are going to be flying almost the same flight as we did um, yesterday. I think I'm actually going to restart this real quick. Um, 'Cause I'm already building up ice. This is going to be the fun part. Uh, I'm going to be doing some I'm going to be doing some flying in some IFR weather, but this is icing conditions. So this is actually going to be really dangerous. I would never actually do this in real life if this is like the situation. Uh, this is not the weather to fly in. Um, Here we go. I don't know why it keeps loading up at night. Let's bring it into the daytime. Bram. Okay. So IFR weather, freezing conditions. I'm gonna be flying into known icing conditions. Now this is not allowed. This is like highly illegal, and you will get yourself killed for this. Uh, Oops, wrong one. So the reason I'm doing this is a to kind of show people really the dangers of flying if you're not smart about it. But here I'm gonna be not smart, and I'm gonna fly the same flight I did in the last stream. And that last flight was from Centennial, Colorado to Noco, Colorado, which is Fort Collins. Now, I'm going to be doing this instrument. I'm not going to be able to see the ground, but the way I'm going to do it is uh, very similar to how I did it last time, except I'm going to be using instruments, and hopefully that's going to give you guys a little bit of an idea of how we do instrument flying, but also the dangers of flying in icing conditions. We tend to call this a FIKI, flight into known icing conditions, and I don't actually expect to survive this one, but we're going to see how far we can go. We're going to see exactly what it takes to stall this aircraft, and I can already see some ice building up on the windshield, so we're going to try and set up as fast as possible and just take off. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to tune into Jeffco VOR, and I'm just gonna fly there, and I can kind of set up as we go along, but it's best to set up your flight plan as quick as possible and just have an overlay so you never lose situational awareness, and hopefully we'll actually get there before everything ices up. So I'm gonna go direct to Jeffco VOR, and then what I'm gonna try and do is go direct to a waypoint, a specific waypoint that's going to help me actually get on the ILS approach into no-go. And it's going to take about 30 minutes to get there, but my wings might ice up before then. And I'll talk a little bit about why is ice so detrimental as I fly. Let me just get this set up real quick. If you guys have any questions, just drop it up into the chat, and I'll answer as I go along. Then I want to go to Fort Collins, FNL. You guys can see on the bottom right hand corners, I'm using the GPS to plug in a bunch of waypoints, and then what I'll do is I'll hit the procedure, approach, ILS 3, and we're going to go from Connery. We're just going to load that, yeah. Okay, cool. So I got that loaded in, but right now I'm using actually my VOR to navigate. So I want to go direct. I'm not going to pick up anything, but typically I take off, I go heading 330, and I'll basically be on my way. So let's see how far I can actually get. So I'm just going to go ahead, go full throttle, release that parking brake, and we're going to take off. We're going to see if we can actually make it to NOCO in known icing conditions. Alright, so let's see if the airspeed actually comes alive. I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my pitot heat. Airspeed's alive. We got 10 degrees flaps in. I have no rudders, so I'm not going to worry about the runway, but here we are. We're at 55 knots, and typically, if you're going to be flying in icy conditions, you want to really increase your air speeds. Alright, so we're lifting off, we're climbing about 65 knots. Gonna try and maintain runway heading best as possible. I'm gonna set that heading about 350. Okay, cool. And we're off. No more runway remaining. Clear of obstacles. Flaps up to 0. We're going to build that airspeed to about 75, and we're going to go all the way up to 8,000. Typically, when you're IFR, you're going to fly up to a even thousands. Well, not like even or odd, but you're going to climb up to a solid thousand. So we're going to go up to 8,000, and that's typically the maximum altitude we're going to need to be at the approach for Fort Collins. And here we can see that my VOR is already tuned in, uh, and it's picking up. So I'm going to turn to that heading 315. We're going to just change our heading to 315, and we're going to track that direct, because now we can't even see the ground. Now we are basically in the clouds. We're IFR, and we're going to keep climbing up higher, so we're going to see less of the ground than we do now. Alright. I gotta say, if I was actually in this situation, I would think A, I'm an idiot, and B, I'd be praying to God right now. I'm already not picking up as much airspeed as I should for my pitch attitude, so that's already concerning. But hopefully we'll get there in about 20 minutes. Alright, climbing up. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and just start up autopilot. First thing I'm going to do is have it maintain my heading. So I'm going to press autopilot, heading, and then I'm going to select an altitude that I want to climb up to. And that's going to be 8,000. So on the bottom left instrument, you can see that there's a number changing. And I'm going to select 8,000. And then to climb at that altitude, I'm going to choose a specific airspeed. So I'm going to press climb at an airspeed. I'm going to lower that to about 75. That's best rate of climb. So I'm going to climb the fastest I can. Fastest gain in altitude in time. So here we go. We're tracking a VOR. We're more or less lined up. I think I can add about, a little bit of right correction. And already we're not really climbing so well. I am completely in the white, at least maintaining airspeed, but our climb rate is already really diminished. And I'm at best possible power. And that would be 2300 RPMs is what I'm really getting out of it. And it's just going down and down. It's just getting worse and worse. Already the tower is telling me change frequency. Frequency change approved. I'm out. Now, typically, you'd be on an IFR flight plan, and nobody would do this VFR. It'd be ridiculous, highly illegal. Um, not, not including the whole flight into known icing. But we're barely getting above 7,000. But right now, based off my flight plan, that should be an active leg. Where's my flight plan? Where are we at? Oh, my flight plan starts at BJC, so let's do this. We're going to go direct to BJC. Cool. Now we're direct to BJC. Alright. And what's going to be complicated about this flight plan is if I'm leaving Centennial and I go to Rocky Mountain and I'm trying to get on the ILS approach, there's no real structure to get me from point B to point C, and typically you need some sort of radar vectoring to help you out. But we're gonna do something kind of backwards, and I'm just gonna use my GPS to get direct to Connery and get to the final approach fix, and then that'll get us down. Looks like there's some There's some blue skies above me. I don't know if that means I'm out of the icing conditions, but I can tell you that I'm not in a great position. I'm definitely going back further into the icing conditions. But you can see on the bottom right, that's my GPS. It's basically emblematical of a Garmin 530, a really good GPS system, pretty standard on most aircrafts. And we're just going to our first checkpoint, and that's going to establish us essentially on our flight plan. And while maintaining 75 knots, I'm basically stuck at 7.2, and that's just going to be because I've probably already built up a significant amount of icing on my wings, and I'm just not going to get that performance. My engine has already gone down, my engine RPMs, and I don't think I could do better than this. So we're gonna hope for the best. We'll keep climbing if we can. Ooh. If I found myself in this position, I'm just gonna divert to the nearest airport. But this is gonna be the fun part. This is why I love, being able to fly a Microsoft Flight Simulator because you can really test your boundaries. You can really test your abilities and really see why we don't do the things we don't do. All right. And if you have any questions, just drop it in the chat. Happy to talk about it. I am a certified flight instructor. I teach everyone from private pilot, instrument, commercial, CFI, and I can answer most of the questions you guys got for me. Living la vida loca. Man. Okay, so it looks like we're stuck at 7,200 and we're losing lift. We're actually starting to descend now. Not too much, about 50 feet per minute, but this is already bad. Ooh, I know we're not gonna make it. Now, this is actually the weather that was live today. I just kind of went back in time a bit, but this is the weather that we've been experiencing kind of all day here in Denver. It's been a little snowy, flurries here and there, but total IFR conditions. Definitely not a day to fly. And let's see, our ground speed is not even that good. Let's get our data fields on. Let's see. So yeah, no winds. We're trying to fly. Maybe a 5 knot tailwind. Oof, it's gonna take us 10 minutes to get to Rocky Mountain. Eesh. We are not even in Denver's airspace, even though we're trying real hard to get into Denver's airspace. Now, Denver departure is 132.75, and I would have contacted them like almost immediately after departure. Um, but Microsoft, I don't really like their communications, and so I don't really dig deep into um, what I should be doing in terms of communications. So I got autopilot trying to maintain 75 knots, and we've already dipped down to 65, just trying to, looks like, maintain altitude. Oh, you think it'd lower the nose, and so autopilot's not perfect. It's not the best, and I think at this point, I'd be praying to God, hoping I'd even make it to BJC. Upside, inside out. We are living la vida loca. Man, if I could climb higher, I would. Looks like we got some blue skies above us, and if I could reach that, I would. Even like 10,000 feet would be much safer than where we are right now. Alright, starting to lose airspeed. Looks like we're about to stall. Um, yep, definitely not going to make it. So let's see if we can divert to Rocky Mountain. Let's go. Let's go nearest airport. Let's go direct to that. Stall warn's happening. I'm going to bring off autopilot. I'm going to lower that nose. I'm going to just try and stay alive. We do not want to get into a stall. And with that flight plan, I'm just going to go for the procedure, select approach. Let's get that nose all the way down. Let's go ILS 35 right. Let's go direct to inspire. Let's activate it. Yep. See what that looks like on the flight plan, where I need to be. Oh, my trim is way back. It's not even letting me go down. Alright. So it looks like we're pretty close to inspire. There we go. Okay. Now, the ground is like 5,000 feet. In inspire, I typically be doing this at like 7,000. But here we're going to be almost declaring an emergency. We're going to be requesting a very specific type of approach. We're going to say we're going to need vectors to final, so maybe I could actually put that in. Alright, just trying to main altitude. Here we go. This is going to get real bad real quick. Keep that trim going. Oof. Sweating already. So, let's see. Procedure. Let's go. Let's go direct to enter. I'm going to go direct to a like, and cool. Alright. Let's see if we make it. Right now I got 90 knots and I'm still kind of descending, and I'm trying to use as much speed as possible to keep keep lift. But this isn't looking good so far. 111.7 should be the ILS, so we're going to knock that in right now. We're going to hope that the localizer comes in. The final approach course is about 30, so we want to bring that course to 30 just for situational awareness. Alright, let's see what we can do. I'm going to try and maintain as much airspeed as possible just to maintain altitude. So if I had to pull up the approach, alright, I can intercept it at 7,000. I'm at 1,000 feet too low. I know I'm only about 500 feet above the ground, and this is not looking good already. If I had to put it on the ground, there'd be probably no way that I was going to be able to do that in these conditions. I can't even see the ground. So we're going to keep trying to intercept that. I'm not really worried about, trying to hit all the numbers, especially in the case of emergency. You really just want to get to the runway as soon as possible, but you're going to have some sort of intercept angle. Right now, I don't even have the localizer. I don't have a glide slope in. At this point, I'm just hoping that I can maintain altitude. Let's see if we make it. Right now, I have plenty of airspeed, which is impressive. I didn't think I'd actually be able to maintain this much, let alone produce a climb. But it's probably just because it's warmer at lower altitudes, and maybe I'm just not freezing up as much. But this is in no way a good idea. Doo doo doo. Alright. So in this situation, I'd legit just be declaring an emergency, requesting a uh, precision approach radar vectoring. And essentially what that is ATC is going to tell you, turn left, turn right. They're using their radar to really locate your position, and that's when they're just going to say, hey, we're going to get you straight to the runway. Now, ATC typically does not understand exactly what situation you may find yourself in, and you just got to do every possible thing you can do to keep yourself alive, and that's really explaining to ATC what you need. So if I'm telling them I'm picking up ice, I'm not going to last much longer, I'm losing altitude, I'm losing airspeed, I need a precision approach radar, they're going to vector me as best they can straight to the runway. And they'll try and keep me with obstacle clearance and try and keep me at a specific altitude. But if I cannot maintain that altitude, I'm going to be very vocal about that. So the fact that I can even maintain 6,000 is wild to me. Looks like the ILS is back in and the glide slope is also back in. This is not something I would ever try and put myself in. But, given that we're here and I knew I wasn't going to make it, I just, did every possible thing I could do. And so maybe I can produce a climb, keep that obstacle clearance, because I know right now I'm like 200 feet above the runway and I'm still about, 2 miles out. Not something that is fun for me. So there's the extended center line. Kind of gives me some sort of situational awareness. Thankfully, Rocky Mountain Metro Airport sits well above the rest of the terrain, so it's actually an airport like kind of posted on a hill. It's much higher than the rest of the city around it. So I know I'm a little bit higher than the city, but at this point, I don't know if I'm going to hit anything. I don't know if I'm going to run into anything. I can't see anything. I can maybe make out some buildings, which if in real life this is my real altitude, I'd be shitting bricks. So there's my glide slope, but my ILS never came in. So I'm gonna use the best of my abilities to kind of ballpark it. Now it says I can kind of go lower. I'll try that out. I'm gonna keep high airspeed, just so I don't stall. I could stall at a much higher airspeed than what my airspeed indicates. So typically I come in like 65, but I'm going to keep it around like this 85 knots. Ooh, I am definitely below the runway. I have no ILS. Oop, I see a light. I think that was a runway. Ooh, hey, here's a runway. At this point in an emergency, you do whatever you can. As long as you don't die. And so my stall warning horn is already going off. Bam. Alright, somehow we made it to a runway. I don't even care if I'm on the runway, which thankfully I am. I made it. It's 0-0 visibility. I mean, even real IFR traffic would not be shooting these approaches. They'd be going around. But when your life's at stake, man, you do what you can, especially when your wings are icing over. This I got lucky with. I don't think anybody without the knowledge of the terrain or anything would ever really be able to make this. And just looking outside, you can see my windshield is already iced over. I could barely look outside of it, let alone maybe see a runway. And the only thing that got me thinking was, well, there was a light, so maybe that was something. Somehow we made it safely out of Rocky Mountain, and clearly we couldn't even make it. What was that, like 15, 20 miles? Couldn't even make it that far without losing lift. So here we are, Rocky Mountain. Just flew from Centennial. Typically an easy flight, but oh my god, I could not do this instrument. Well, I could do it instrument. I could not do this in icing conditions. I don't think anybody ever should. This is, I think, a clear situation that is very deadly. Um, we could try this one more time. I'll just load up and see how far we can go. Let's see. Yeah, let's try this again and see if I can just go direct and maybe if I'm at a lower altitude, I won't ice up as much. Let's try that one out. Maybe if I just am at a lower altitude. All right, let's see this. We're gonna restart. And this time I'm not gonna even waste time loading up. I'm just gonna take off and go. We'll figure it out en route. Let's make that a little bit earlier. Cool. It's snowing. Dope. Let's get inside. I need my GPS. Okay, cool. Alright, we got my GPS. I'm just going to go ahead and go. And let's see how far we can make it. Alright. I think this is actually a really good lesson to show not only the dangers of icing conditions, but what it really does. And the reason ice destroys your lift is because your wings are smooth. They're shaped a certain way. You know, it's an airfoil. It's designed that as it moves forward um, into the air, it's just gonna develop this high pressure, low pressure system, and that's because of its shape. So if you got ice around that shape, it's gonna disrupt that entire airflow. It's not gonna be as smooth. Um, it's not going to be able to keep that shape. And so you lose that high pressure, low pressure system, and no matter how much power you have, you're going to stall. And it's just more of an aerodynamic stall. You're stalling because your wings physically not cannot produce lift. Now, other aircrafts, you may be wondering, well, how do airliners do it? How do bigger aircrafts do it? They are designed to actually kick that ice off. And there's a couple ways you can do it. Most common is what they call a boot, and a boot is just like this inflatable thing that expands on the leading edge of the wing, so that whatever ice is formed, it just expands and like breaks it off. And there's limits to that. There's limits to everything. If you leave that boot expanded and the ice forms, and then you uh, um, retract that boot, well, then you just have a nice layer of ice around the leading edge, and now the boot can't kick it off because it's the ice is at the point of its max extension, so you're not going to get that ice off. Other ways of doing it is like electrical wiring, where it'll just kind of heat the leading edge. This is actually more common for propellers. And another one is alcohol. Now, alcohol is really hard to get ice off, and typically it's just more of a preventative measure. So it's considered anti-ice, not de-icing equipment. Here, we're going to level off at 7,000. I think that's going to be a warmer altitude. So I'm going to do autopilot, heading, altitude, and let's turn that heading actually, uh, keep it more, yeah, right there. Cool. And now that I'm in the air, I'm keeping somewhat altitude. I can even lower that altitude to, 7,000. Give it an even number. There we go. And it descends. Cool. Um, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just try and get direct to no go. The only way I'm gonna be able to do that is by using a GPS, which is valid. Um, so all I gotta do is I don't even know if it's on nearest. NOCO is definitely not that nearby. It's about 50 miles out, and this stops at about 23. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to our flight plan and manually put it in. Frequency change approved. And honestly, for a short flight like this, you're probably gonna get direct anyway. It's no point in trying to do this whole extra BS of going to a VOR or like that's like you know 10, 15 miles out of your way. But here we are. Um, oh, climbed a bit. Yeah. Honestly, I hate Microsoft with this whole frequency crap. Cool. So we're gonna go four columns, direct, enter, and then I'm immediately gonna select set up approach procedure, and that's gonna be ILS 33. And we're gonna go direct to Connery because that's the final approach fixed. We're gonna activate it way back here because there's no other waypoints between here and there, so I can see it's just direct. Cool. And since I'm going GPS, I want to make sure that my CDI is on GPS, that it's slaved, so that uh, I know where to go and I'm not using VORs. And if I switch my autopilot to nav mode, it'll just follow the GPS. So now I'm at 7,100. Maybe I could lower that a bit. I'm barely keeping airspeed. But let's get down to 7,000. So let's see how far we can go. I know we're going to crash, but this time I'm going to just let it happen. Alright, we're at 7,000. I don't even know my outside air temperature. It's not going to tell me. There we go, 19 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, okay, we are definitely in freezing conditions. So I'm going to start building up ice. I don't know how slowly or how quickly, but it's definitely going to happen. We're going to just see how far we can go. See how much time it's going to take. I could even start that. Okay. Cool. So we're in around 7,000. Typically, you're not going to be at this altitude. This is way too low for vectoring. So I am well below the minimum vectoring altitude. I'm going like northeast. Or typically northwest. I'd probably be at like 8,000 at least, and that's going to be like the max altitude for the approach, at least to start it. But it also lets me go as low as like 6,800. So 7,000 is a happy medium. We're in a flight simulator. Really, we're just here to examine um, capabilities. And we can see my airspeed is already maxed out at like 73, 74 knots. So I'm full throttle. My mixture's set. This is the best we're going to do. So seeing how far we are, it's going to take us about this says 28 minutes. We'll see. That countdown's pretty quick. But we are 38 miles out. So if we make it, great. If we don't, that's expected. Okay. Made it up to 80 knots with a what looks like a 4 knot tailwind. Cool. Oh, that's why my flaps were still up. Ooh. Don't fly with flaps up. Okay. That's going to give us a little bit more airspeed. Flaps can give you lift, but they give you a lot of drag. Doesn't look so bad. I wouldn't say like I'm in the clouds. I shouldn't be picking up icing per se. So this is good. I think if I stay in just above the cloud layer like this, I think I'll be fine. I couldn't tell you if I was actually picking up icing. Wings look clear. I definitely have ice on my windshield. That would be a pretty quick identifier, but um, definitely on the wing tips. Just don't see it much on the leading edge. I do have my pitot heat on, which is going to make sure that my airspeed always shows. It's this little pitot tube right here, and so I it's heated by electrical wire. So as long as that's hot, I'm gonna get my airspeed, and it's not gonna ice over. Um, Even if it does ice over, um, well, if it does, I would lose my airspeed indication. It doesn't mean I'm actually losing airspeed, but it's a pretty good indication that you've built up ice, and you probably don't have a lot of time left. But so far, I think this is the furthest we made it without any complications. Couldn't tell you why I'm I'm not going faster. I guess the airspeed is starting to drop. So yes, icing is starting to build. Cool. All right. Um, Knowing we got what in real time, 23 minutes, 24 minutes left to go, and I'm losing about a knot a minute. Oof. Yeah, we'll see. How far you think I'm gonna go? You think I'm actually gonna make it to NoCo, or you think I'm gonna crash anywhere sooner? Think I'll I think I'm gonna crash a lot sooner. I definitely have a little bit more altitude as I go further north. NoCo sits about 5,000. Rocky Mountain sits about 5,600. So I'll have a little bit more altitude, but oh man, I am stuck at this airspeed. Now I think the fun part about flying IFR is the end, the approach. Because when you break out of the cloud and you see that runway, whew, that is satisfying. Uh, Last time I was lucky, I didn't expect it. I see the runway. I think if that was real life, uh, I'd be, I'd be opening a church. I'd be starting a whole religion on how God is good. But in this scenario, we're gonna we're gonna risk it for the biscuit. But yeah, um, sometimes, especially if I'm like gonna be flying instrument or going to a new airport, sometimes I really do like that I can rely on this simulator at least 90% for its accuracy, just so I can get some practice, so I can keep my situational awareness. That if I do find myself in situations, I'm a lot more comfortable, even if I'm in a very unfamiliar environment. I think when students start to learn instrument, I think it's very important to just start on a simulator, and don't try to get into the clouds. Don't try and rush for that experience, because whether you're with an experienced instructor or not, I mean, there's dangers and risks everywhere, and you don't want to start adding risks just to say, "Oh yeah, I've been in the soup," or I have actual time. Uh, that's great and all, and if you do find yourself in that situation, it's best to have the um, knowledge and skills to keep yourself safe. But I would not go out of my way to put myself in that situation. Even though I'm instrument rated, even though I'm an instrument instructor, I don't go out of my way to put myself and my students in the clouds, because it doesn't mean I'm not uh, skilled or I'm not proficient. It means I don't want to add unnecessary risk. We hear accidents happen all the time in aviation, and sometimes, hindsight's always 2020, but sometimes you want to think, oh wow, I would have avoided that situation or I could have done better, and that's not really the mindset you want to have. What you want to do is be able to say, hey, um, I definitely could find myself in that situation, and I don't know how I would react. But knowing those factors and when they do exist moving forward, I can anticipate that, and I can say, hey, uh, maybe I'm not gonna go on this flight because I've heard of this happening, and it's just another risk, and I'd rather be on the ground wishing I was in the air than in the air wishing I was on the ground, which is basically the flight I just did, right? I was praying to be on the ground. Here, I know I'm going to be doing the same. You can see I started to lose a lot of airspeed just trying to maintain altitude, so I decided to descend a little bit, and I'm just going to try and descend at a rate that keeps a specific airspeed. And if the airspeed drops, the autopilot should lower the nose all the way down to the new selected altitude, 6,500. Now, this is not even high enough to do the approach, so I'm going to be in the same situation that I was in at Rocky Mountain. I'm going to be well below the glide slope. I'm not going to be able to shoot this approach properly enough, but I'm able to keep airspeed. Man, I really thought I was out of the clouds there. Maybe I'm still in it. Maybe I just can't tell. But oh, yep, there's that icing. You can see all around my plane. Oh, there's some good icing. And this is live weather of earlier today, so I know nobody was flying. But the commercial aircrafts, I know they're not having fun. I mean, this thing probably topped out at about 10,000, so in cruise, commercial aircraft are not going to really worry about it. They're just going to be dealing with it on approach. And with de-icing equipment and anti-icing equipment, that's not too bad because you're going to be on approach for about 5 to 10 minutes. I've been in flight for what 20 minutes now, and yeah, this is bad. I don't think there's a way to get away from this. All right. So somehow I've been able to keep 80 knots at a very slow descent down to 6,500. Um, that's one way to keep your airspeed up, right? It's not about rushing down to altitude for a warmer temperature. It's really just about trying to maintain that airspeed. Airspeed is life. And if you had to choose anything, altitude or airspeed, I'm going to choose airspeed because if I'm coming down, I'm coming down. And if I can put it down somewhere safe, great. If I can't, that airspeed is going to be the only thing that keeps me level. If I don't have airspeed, I'm not level. I'm nose down. And when you don't have airspeed and you're nose down, you're going to feel that impact first. Planes don't really, they don't really land tail first. So there's nothing really absorbing that impact. You are first witness. Okay, we've made it almost 20 minutes. I think if I look inside, yeah, 12 minutes. So we're actually making up time somehow. But it looks like we've actually been en route for 12 minutes since Centennial. So not too bad. Seems like icing got bad pretty quickly. I descended. It seemed like I was at 19 degrees Fahrenheit at 7,000. I lowered and now I'm at 17 degrees Fahrenheit. Typically, what we know is as you go up in altitude, it gets cooler. Depending on the adiabatic lapse rate, it's about 2 degrees per thousand feet. But it seems like as we go further north, it's also getting cooler. We've also kind of left the city, and so some terrestrial heating has probably um, been the source of that temperature. And now that we've left the typical cooling of a city, or typical warming of a city, we've probably seen the area just get cooler. So, all right. And I can kind of see the ground. I think that's one good takeaway here, is that if I could see the ground plus a rainbow, um, I feel a little bit more comfortable. I wouldn't feel comfortable at all in this situation, but as I'm cruising, um, and for some reason I'm not diverting, this is something that could help us if we do find ourselves in a situation where we can't maintain altitude. Colorado has like a billion farms, just like thousands of acres of farmland. And if you had to put it down somewhere, I would definitely prefer a farm field over any road or anything. Because roads come with cars, they come with power lines, they come with bridges, they come with signs. Um, all things you don't want to impact, right? If I had to choose, like this right here, this little farmland, this is an excellent place to put it because if you put it in grass, um, or dead hay or cornfield, whatever. For the most part, that grass is not going through your windshield, and it's going to create more friction than any solid ground, right? So it's going to slow you down more. So I'm going to come to a stop more quickly. Um, so definitely always preferring a farm field over any road, even like a dirt road. You never know; it's not going to be smooth, and you're landing at like 60 knots, which is almost 65 miles an hour. And last thing you want to do is hit a bump that basically ditches you nose first. All right, so somehow we've maintained 80 knots. We've reached a new cruise altitude of 6,500. Hey, it keeps us alive, and it looks like we only have, based off the GPS, 13 minutes until en route. And yeah, we're going direct to Connery, so that's going to hit us right with the glide slope, and then we'll be able to follow it down at a pretty good rate. Maintaining altitude, I'm already starting to lose airspeed. So soon I'm going to have to choose another lower altitude just to maintain airspeed and keep a really nice shallow descent to keep that 80 knots. So, uh, knowing that NOCO is 5,000 feet and I'm going to bring us down to 6,000 and I still have 1,000 feet to go, it looks like we're doing pretty good. Um, we're 12 minutes until Connery, so I think that's something I'm gonna do in about like 5 more knots as soon as I lose a little bit more airspeed. All right, chugging along. I think right now I'm passing Boulder. Boulder's like all the way to my west. You can't even see it. I'm only like 10 miles from it, but Boulder's kind of more towards that direction. And maybe I could probably recognize a few roads, maybe a few towns. I'm definitely north of Erie. Erie is it's a pretty wealthy community, and they got their own airport. It's a great diversion airport. It's uncontrolled. It doesn't have a lot of runway, but definitely enough to put the plane down. It's not the easiest to spot either, but yeah, I think I'm well past that. I think my next closest airport would be Longmont if I really had to divert. But we're almost there. I'm starting to feel confident that we'll make it. Yeah, we're definitely not going to be able to do the instrument approach. Definitely going to have to wait for warmer weather, but looks like the outside air temperature is now 16 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm down to 70 knots. So, like I said, I lost a few more knots. Let's lower that altitude, and I'm gonna descend at 80 knots. And it looks like I'm gonna require a much steeper descent. So I've definitely built up way more ice this time. I got my 80 knots. Now I'm descending at about 100 feet per minute. But now I've already gone down 200 feet like instantly just to get that airspeed. So um, much faster descent than what I had to do the first time. Ooh, and this is just a solid blanket cover, man. I think this is a result of a stationary front that was here yesterday, and it looks like it just the cold front kind of won. It wasn't fast moving. If it was, we wouldn't really have had um, IFR conditions all day. It seems like this is pretty more consistent, just really slow moving cold front, lifting up that warm air really slowly, freezing it, and keeping it a very steady, stable cloud cover. Because I mean, it didn't snow heavy at all, so any snow that did come down, it was just as a result of the mass of moisture in the air, and it doesn't look like it actually went up too high either. I mean, if I could get up to 10,000, um, I'd be in the clear, but it looks like I'm kind of stuck at this altitude. It also looks like the cloud layer is kind of thinning, so maybe I'm also not going to accumulate so much so quickly. Kind of looks like I'm at the same level of icing that I was about 10 minutes ago or 5 minutes ago. So I'm not accumulating as much, but I'm still in the icing condition. I'm still in cloud cover at freezing temperatures, but I feel like I can see a lot more land here. And if this was the case, I'd feel a lot more comfortable where I'm at. Still divert. I would never do this in real life, but I think we can continue. I think we're gonna make it at this point. I was not confident uh, the first time around, but um, I might be confident, a little bit more confident now. And we're still at 6,300. We have a really shallow descent, maybe like 20 feet per minute, if that. Just trying to maintain the 80 knots. All right, we're about 10 miles out from Connery. And our minimum approach, our minimum descent altitude is typically 5,700, and we're not too high above that. We're like 500 feet above that. So, um, oh yeah, I love this game too. Uh, why wouldn't your computer support it? What kind of computer you got? I'm running a what is it, an RTX 3060 with 500 gigs of RAM, gigs of storage, and I think 32 gig RAM. I think if you have that, oh, yeah, if you can get a good graphics card, the 3060s shouldn't be too much now because they've already came out with the 40 series. So maybe you can get it. Um, and I've been able to run high graphics without streaming. So I definitely recommend the 3060 if you're just looking to fly for fun. But the RAM is really where you need it to be. 32 is like the minimum. Yeah, I'm at medium right now, and this is the only way to keep the stream live. Uh, but 100%. If you do the 64 gig RAM, I don't think any game is gonna lag on you. I appreciate that, Alex. All right. So we're about 5 minutes from Connery, and we're still 80 knots, 6,300. I think we're winning this game. I think we're gonna make it to NoCo. I appreciate that. I'm on here almost every day at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. I don't know what time it is for you, but I'm gonna be here constantly just giving out free flight training lessons. So if you love the game and aviation's your thing, uh, definitely hop on and hopefully you'll learn a few things. I just departed Centennial Airport in Colorado, and I'm going to Northern Colorado Regional. So it's about 50-mile flight. It's a pretty typical flight. I actually send my own students on. So we're actually just trying to see if we can make it in these icing conditions, and it looks like we are. It looks like we're gonna be making this flight a success. I don't think I can climb higher than 6,200 though. So we're still at the we're still biting our fingernails, seeing if we're gonna actually make this. Uh, but yeah, if you're in Colorado and flying is something you want to do, and Centennial Airport is like um, you know an airport you might fly out of, this is an actual flight you would be doing, but without the icing. The weather is real time. This weather was the actual weather today, earlier today. It's like 9 p.m. right here, but this is about 12 p.m. Local time, and it's just been snowing all day. Uh, it's been a pretty poor day to fly, and when I see this types of this type of weather, it really makes me want to see like what it's like, right? And what are the real conditions and what are the real effects? And you can see that the real effects is some pretty rough icing. Uh, Last flight, I almost died. I almost stalled, and somehow I made it to Rocky Mountain. But this time, I think we're gonna successfully make it to NoCo. Yeah, this is one reason I love Microsoft Flight Simulator. The real time is just awesome. It really makes you feel like you can you can try some really challenging weather and get a good take on it. Well, make sure you have a fire extinguisher on standby if you think your graphics card's gonna explode. What kind of graphics card you got? Maybe have 911 on standby too. How much is a 3060? I gotta tell you, if you can get one for Valentine's Day, ask somebody for a graphics card. uh, what are they running at? 300 bucks? Yeah, I think if you got somebody to buy you a Valentine's Day, that's reasonable. Venezuela, that's where you're at. Yeah, we could definitely try that. I am wrapping up our session time, but tomorrow I could definitely try Venezuela. I've never flown outside the country. I've never flown um, like at least an airplane like this, and I don't, my certificate really wouldn't last. But I think that'd be interesting. What airport do you know an airport around you? If you got the code identifier, yeah, no, not from Colorado, but I could definitely load up in Venezuela and do a small jump and in real time. I got a pen. Honestly, this plane probably wouldn't even make it to Mexico in one tank. You're wild, Alex. All right, look at this. We made it to Connery, and we are not dead. So we're only about 1,000 feet above the ground. We somehow managed to maintain 80 knots, and looks like we're gonna continue the approach. No, we're not gonna hold direct. We are. We're gonna shoot the approach. Ooh, we're gonna go not on autopilot. All right. All right. We're going into approach mode. I gotta focus. All right. Let's see. Final approach course is 330. Let's get that in there. All right. I am definitely moving away from the approach course. Oh man, where are you traveling from? Are you like just around Venezuela? That's dope. Why do you think you're gonna get there? Is your car is the bus gonna break down or the van? What are you guys traveling in? All right. This is. Oh no, I'm supposed to be on 109.5. Let's switch that up. Bam. There we go. Rough. I mean, I've been there. I just finished like a whole cross country around the U.S. and honestly, it sounded like my car was gonna explode. I had to like pull over for a full day and just actually get it repaired. It was interesting. I wouldn't recommend driving 5,000 uh, miles inside of like what was it, 11 days. All right, so somehow I'm able to maintain 6,000. I'm gonna keep doing this. It looks like the glide slope is actually below me, but the ILS is to my right. So I'm gonna start actually a descent. I got about 1,000 feet to go. I see the rabbit. You guys see the rabbit? We made it. I don't know how we did it, but we made it. I hope you make it home too, Alex. Actually, you'd be surprised. What you see on the left of the screen, that's all you need to fly instrument. They're called G5s, and they're not they're not too complicated, and that's actually all you need to do is fly. But yeah, cool. Almost there. What do you got? Like a couple hundred miles to go? How far are you out? Like another hour? I know that last stretch. Oof, it could be the roughest. Oh no, I'm losing visibility. The icing's getting worse. Where's the runway? I don't even know whether to put flaps in. I would not put flaps in this situation. Here we go. I am like 5 feet above the ground. Rough. This is what you call living la vida loca. Hey yo, can't even see it. All right, we made it. I got no rudders. I could barely see outside. Woof. We made it, guys. Made it to no go in the worst conditions possible. Nothing I would actually do in real life. We made it. All right. I don't even think tower's open. Oh, well, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. This, this was a wild time flying. So I hop on here about every day, like 8 p.m. Standard Time. I have no idea what time it is in Venezuela. Uh, um, to answer your question, when I bought this game, I bought the premium. I went for the most. It was like $120, and no, I didn't have to buy anything extra. You can buy um, new planes and different planes, and typically it's just like developers just trying to make some money for their designs. But you don't have to. Cessna is typically what I fly. It's what I'm used to, and that's really all I need. So I haven't paid anything more than the 125. Yeah, I know. I was in Florida last week. Oof, I don't know why I left Florida. That's warm. I miss the warm. I'm Puerto Rican, so I don't even know why I live in such a cold state. All right, we're gonna end off right here. But yeah, um, I think Microsoft is pretty useful. If you're just thinking to learn to fly, I definitely recommend it. Maybe the new one, just because it's not so heavy on your storage. I mean, I think this game is has already put on like 300 gigs on my drive, and Microsoft 2024 is um, like 50 gigs on your drive, and they put most of it online now, so you don't actually have to download too much. Thank you for the compliments. I'm glad I made it. Honestly, this is not how I'd normally fly, um, but somehow we made it. So happy for that. Best thing to do when you're flying in conditions like this is always talk to ATC. Microsoft, their ATC isn't that great in 2020, and I'm hoping that it's better in 2024. But I'm not quite sure. I know they have a lot more features. Hugs back to you. But yeah, I'd say if you're gonna go for something, try the 2024, and they should give you some minimum specs. Um, just just so you know, like what you need to actually run it. Let's see, minimum requirements. I think we're looking at uh, i7 core processor, 16 gigs of RAM. I'd go with a 32, even 64 if you could. And they don't need a lot. Honestly, if you get a 3060, you're able to run everything. So I definitely recommend if you can get that set up, uh, get, get someone to buy you a quick Valentine's Day gift and get a graphics card. I have an i7. It works fine, honestly. The i7 does exactly what you need. I don't think I've ever had any problems with it. The only thing I would upgrade is my RAM. I'd go from a 32 to a 64. 100%. Well, if you get the game and you try it out and it doesn't explode, hop back on tomorrow and let me know all about it. I hope you get home safe, Alex. I'm a hop off. I got my dog to walk, and uh, he's already moaning. So I appreciate you guys watching, and I'll be doing this as many days in a row as I can. So every day about 8 o'clock Mountain Time, or an hour ago, wherever your time is. I have absolutely no idea what time it is in Venezuela right now. Hey, don't put the blame on me. We're just trying to see things if they work. It's 12. It's midnight over there. Oh God. All right. Well, I really appreciate you hopping on. I mean, I guess the drive wasn't uh, too exciting. I'm happy that you found me on Twitch. Maybe I'll fly earlier. Maybe I'll fly earlier in the day so you guys can catch me more often. I don't want to keep you up in the middle of a work day. But really appreciate you guys hopping on.